All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new movie review. All right, so I just got back from seeing Blue Beetle at the theater very close to my house. I told you guys that I didn't want to support this film, and I do get free movies by racking up points, and they also have $5 Mondays. So no matter what, I'm not giving much money to the studio. Now, when it comes to free, I don't know if the studios reimburse or if the theaters reimburse the studios or not, but I will tell you going into this that there were only 7 people in my theater. Now, granted, it was a Monday 11:10 showing, but there were only 7 of us in there, which I thought was a little bit ridiculous, especially where I live, where there's a bunch of people and there's not a lot of entertainment. So I always wanted to see this film, but I don't want to support Warner Brothers, and I've made that very clear. I was hoping that this was going to be a really fun movie, and I'm going to tell you where I kind of rank this as far as films, okay? And I'm going to be as spoiler-free as possible. Now, to liken how this story kind of rolls out, it's like doing a Green Lantern film with Jon Stewart and mentioning Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan's always been there, but you never see Hal Jordan. Well, this is kind of the same thing. You find out early on that he's not the only Blue Beetle. And I'm not going to tell you how he becomes Blue Beetle. I'm not going to tell you the story behind this or anything. So I'm not going to spoil anything. I'll let the movie kind of take you through that journey. But you never see Ted Kord. Ted Kord was always Blue Beetle. You don't see Ted Kord in this film, but they do refer back to him quite a bit in this film. But he's not in the actual movie. Now, you do want to stay for a couple of post-credit scenes. One kind of sets up for the future, and then the other one is something that finishes a long-running joke throughout the film. So my only concern with what they're doing with these post-credit scenes is, there was a rumor. Well, it's not really a rumor. I did some more research and come to find out there are people who saw a much longer cut of Blue Beetle, and I think it's the exact length it should be, but saw a 3-hour cut of the film and did say, yes, they actually saw that scene in there with Ben Affleck as Batman. So what surprises the crap out of me is that they'll go in and James Gunn will erase all the future showings of Batfleck. Like, he was being sprinkled everywhere. The post credits with Gal Gadot and also Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck in The Flash. Like, they're cutting all of these scenes that tied everything together. But yet they'll include the kind of post-credit scene that they put in Blue Beetle, promising a future that's never going to come. Now, a lot of people wanted to know, and I'm going to get this right out of the gate. The director lied, flat out lied, about a connection with Man of Steel. There is nothing that connects this to the DCU. They make mention of a Superman. They make mention of a Batman. They make mention of a Flash. But there's no indication as to what universe they're in. So this movie could be anywhere. It's not loyal to one or another. So James Gunn is towing the line, trying to say this is the first DCU character. And I find the director lied about having that, respecting Man of Steel, because they also included talking about Batman and the Flash in this. And they also had, big belly burgers or whatever it is from the Flash in there. And what's interesting is one of the things that surprised me, and I have to go back, but they have the OMAC project in this film that you find out early on, that the OMAC project is being developed by Kord Industries. And if I remember right, that's a Batman thing. Like, I think Batman created OMAC to keep track. I don't remember if it came from Kord Industries. I'd have to go back and look at the history. But I remember Batman having this system, and it's very different in this. It's like they took different things from different superheroes and kind of threw them into this film for a mishmash. Now, here's what I really liked about the movie. First of all, the music is great. It's a throwback to the 80s. I really enjoyed it. There were a couple songs from the 80s that were in there, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the score. I'll probably pick up the score for the film. It was really well done. The acting. Now, here's where things get a little dicey. Xolo did great as Jamie Reyes. And you do feel that family dynamic. Like, this family dynamic was really well done. But at the same time, there were some ridiculous things. Like when he finally has his transformation, and we've seen this in the trailers, when he has his transformation into Blue Beetle, it's almost like something out of a horror show, and his family screaming like it was over the top, especially, what's his name? He's the comedian. Why am I forgetting his name off the top of my head? This is crazy. I'm gonna have to pull this up, so there's going to be a pause here. George Lopez, that's what I was looking for. Good grief, I hate it when I do that. So George Lopez is an over-the-top character in the movie. He's like a conspiracy theorist, and there's some things that he does that contradict kind of who he is in the film, which I thought was interesting. But he was a little over the top, and then the grandma is a gun-toting grandma. And there's a point in this film where this family just goes on a rampage killing a bunch of men, and this is an inconsistency with the film because Jamie doesn't want to kill anybody, even his Blue Beetle. Its purpose, they talk about it in the film, and he does not want to kill anybody. He makes it very clear he doesn't want to kill anyone. Yet his family's just willing to just mow down whoever at one point during the film in the third act. And while I enjoyed the third act, I thought that was a little off the wall. Like, for the world that they created and what they did, it was a little cartoonish in that aspect. And it takes you out of the world that they've created. So the family being a little obnoxious was a little bit annoying, but it never really got over the top until that third act. But the rest of it was great. Like, I really enjoyed this villain. Was, I think, more multi-layered than any of the villains we've had in the DCU. I think outside of Zod, this is probably my favorite of the DC villains. There was actually a purpose behind it. And yeah, it's a little more personal, and there's definitely a family dynamic that this whole movie runs through. And it's really well done. And in fact, there's a scene in there in that third act that I really enjoyed. The special effects were way better in this than they were in The Flash. Like, I have no idea how this movie was able to pull off better special effects. Now, it wasn't perfect, because the first time he turns into Blue Beetle, there is a flying sequence over water. And there were some things in there that were a little goofy. I think they could have tightened that up. But outside of that, it had really decent special effects for what it was. So at the end of the day, let's talk about my score on this film. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it's one of the better DC films that they've done. I think it's my favorite since Shazam, the first Shazam. Like, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was better than Black Adam. And don't get me wrong, there were things I loved about Black Adam, but I mean, they threw you into that film with no explanation on the backstory at any of the characters. You could see my review on that. I really enjoyed the story on that. I thought it was well done, but it was great bringing Superman back, but by any means was that like an amazing DC movie? No, it wasn't amazing. It was a good introduction to the characters, though. So you had that film, you had The Flash, and you've had Shazam 2. Now, Shazam 2 is probably my second least favorite DC film. I will tell you that Birds of Prey I absolutely despise. And then I would put James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and then I would put Shazam 2 probably third. And then they go from there. I'm going to have to rank these one day so you guys will see how I rank everything. But I put this right up there with Shazam. I think the family dynamic in Shazam was more heartfelt, but there were definitely some moments in this that were really well done. And like I said, in the third act, there was a scene that I thought was phenomenal and did better special effects than anything we saw in The Flash. And so, you know, at the end of the day, if you want to go see this movie just to see this film, it's not beholden to the DCEU or the DCU. It's its own thing. And do I think it's unapologetically, Latino? No, I don't. I think anybody can go and enjoy this film. It was funny that they lived on El Paso Street. There were a few things in there that you'll pick up on. And, I'm no stranger to the Latino community living in Arizona. Back when I worked at Nabisco, I had food cities I had to service all the time that were all Hispanic. I had to learn. I don't know a lot of Spanish, but I know a couple of things, like no trabajo aquí, which means I don't work here, and no hablo español, which means I don't speak Spanish. I can understand a little bit of Spanish, but I can't speak Spanish. And so it's kind of interesting. There are definitely some inside jokes that probably I didn't get, but it was still a really well told story. And I do look forward, if they do continue with this character, I do look forward to seeing more, and I want to see more about the original Blue Beetle as well. But there's definitely, like I said, there are some things that they took from other franchises and kind of threw them in here. And it almost feels haphazard to do that just because they wanted to create a villain with a backstory and they chose OMAC. But, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I give this movie almost 4 stars. Like, it's very close, like 3.5 for sure. Almost 4 stars, no joke. It was actually just about what I was expecting. It could have been a little bit better if you took out the super silly, ridiculous stuff like the grandma with the machine gun and a few other things. And the family just being gung-ho about killing people, then I would have been I would have given it a solid 4 stars. So I'm kind of teetering. I can't determine. I'd have to see it again. 3.5 to 4 stars. That's kind of where it ranks, and that's about where I put Shazam. Shazam, the first one, I think I gave it 4 stars, if I'm not mistaken. But I really like that movie a lot. I think the family dynamic at Shazam was done a little bit better, but it was still really well done here. Totally worth seeing if you want to go see it. But again, if you're not supporting Warner Brothers, skip it. Watch it when it comes to streaming. You guys could do whatever you want. I am a movie reviewer, and at the end of the day, I do have to have content for my channel. And so I am going to review movies, even if I sometimes don't want to see them. The one genre I just will not entertain unless it's something I really want to see is horror. I'm just not a horror fan, and it's not that it grosses me out. I just don't enjoy horror films. They don't grab me. They just don't grab me. But I'll see just about anything else. So, all right. So there's my review on Blue Beetle. If you want to go see it, go see it. If you don't, watch it when it comes out to stream. But I think you'll enjoy it. All right. So that's all I've got for you. I will see you on the next movie review.